All right, here we go. Here we go. I got Mr. Quality Control Coach himself, Grant Cohn, in the building, getting ready to talk about our takeaways from this 49ers and Packers matchup. And we have to start with Kyle Shanahan because I do feel like.
Hold on. Before we start, I just want to say.
I'm fired up. I'm ready to go.
I just want to say before we start, I want to say that your post-game rant from Levi Stadium was some of the best 49ers commentary I've ever seen, heard, witnessed in the history of the 49ers. It was phenomenal. It was semi-viral. I just want to give you props. It was great. So good.
Thank you.
So
Thank
good.
you.
And it's not because I agree with everything you said.
Yep.
It's just because it's how you said it. It's how you said it, man. You nailed it.
I appreciate that. And to touch on that tweet, which I'm sure you've seen. No, I appreciate it. Because it was one of my more viral rants to date. I'm looking at the tweet analytics. It had 26,000 views. If you go through the quote tweets, almost every single person agreed with what I had to say for the most part. I say it was like a 9-to-1 ratio where 90% of the people.
Important is 26,000 views.
Listen, I have some more numbers for you. 100,000 impressions, which is defined as times people saw this tweet on Twitter. So where I'm going with this is
I think it's pretty. Know who you are because of that rant, and that's phenomenal because it was an A+ rant.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But more importantly, besides from the numbers from that tweet, there's a lot of validity behind it as far as how I think people in the Bay Area are starting to feel in regards to Kyle Shanahan. And for so long, he's gotten away with too much. And now that Trey Lance is here, Jimmy Garoppolo weighs everything on his shoulders. Whenever there's any blame going around, it's Jimmy Garoppolo, especially because such a large body of the fan base wants the team to start Trey Lance. Anything he does wrong is magnified and it carries more weight. And you just stop looking at the head coach, which is who I always think you should look at first, especially when he's the same exact guy calling the plays.
Good point. That's a good point. Honestly, I mean, Vish on my channel said it yesterday. Like, Jimmy isn't starting himself. He didn't create the situation. This is Kyle's situation. And the way I look at it is like, compare it to the Rams. Let's say the Rams didn't do what they did. They didn't go after Stafford. Instead, they kept Goff and traded up for Lance and didn't play Lance. Over here in the Bay, we'd be laughing at them. Like, What are they doing? That doesn't make any sense. Make up your mind. Are you with Goff? Do you want to get away from Goff? That's not what they did. They just went after Stafford for better or worse. And it may not have been the best thing they could have done, but it seems to be working out pretty good right now. The Niners, I still don't exactly know what their plan is. And I think that's what fans' issue with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch is right now. Like, they're kind of lost. Like, what are you trying to do? It's hard to say.
No, and that's fair. And part of my frustration as a fan is it doesn't seem like Kyle Shanahan has any clue how to utilize both Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. It was something we saw very quickly in the Raiders preseason game and something we saw in that first drive against the Lions. And this is something that I keep reiterating over and over is the situations when Trey Lance comes into the game doesn't make any sense to me. For example, that first Lions game when Jimmy Garoppolo is moving the ball. He's moving the ball. Mm-hmm. Why take him out there? And then when the Eagles game took place and Jimmy Garoppolo is struggling to move the ball, hey, maybe you need a spark. Now's a good time to utilize Trey Lance.
Right.
And Trey Lance should have been used more against the Packers. The first play he was in, he scored a touchdown. And part of my frustration with Kyle Shanahan, he's not a self-proclaimed offensive genius. That's something that people say around here. They give Kyle Shanahan his cute little nicknames and they ride or die with him.
His position coaches talk that way about him. I mean, he surrounds himself with people that look at him that way.
If it's 4th and 1 from the opponent's 49-yard line, you need to go for it if you're an offensive genius, especially with, let me read off these numbers. These are the numbers from the 49ers' first 3 drives. 6 plays, 16 yards that lasted 2 minutes and 31 seconds. Next drive, 3 plays, 9 yards, lasted 1 minute and 21 seconds. The next drive, Jimmy Garoppolo throws an interception on the very first play. You're finally moving the ball. You're finally starting to get into a rhythm offensively, and you decide to punt.
And you spent your first round pick on a 1 yard run special.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Like,
on a short yardage special.
This is a team that has tons of talent at every single position on offense. And you're telling me, Mr. Offensive Genius, you can't pick up 1 freaking yard in a moment like that. You have Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Jimmy Garoppolo is great at the quarterback sneak. Trey Lance is on the team for this reason, to help out in situations like that. That's why you still have
what
Jimmy
about
Garoppolo.
The quarterback sneak? I mean, they gained like 80 yards on quarterback sneaks the week before.
It's been unbelievable. So that was just a maddening moment to me where it's like, okay. And the Packers scored a touchdown off that decision to go up 17-0 in that moment. And I have one more thing to add. Trent Cannon, if he does not return that ball 65 plus yards, I would put money on it that Kyle Shanahan goes into halftime content down 17-0. Against the Eagles, that's basically what he did. If you look at
that's what kickstarted the Niners, right? Trent Cannon.
Yeah, Trent Cannon. That was in my Studs and Duds column this past week. That play alone put the 49ers in position to read that. Take a look at it. It's on the All 49ers SI, Twitter page, the website, my Twitter.
Nick's been writing there longer than me. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. But, hey, that's the facts, though, is that Trent Cannon, if that play does not take place, then the 49ers, I don't think they score a touchdown there. And the reason I say that, looking at the Eagles game and the way the sense of urgency and the way it looked early on, Kyle Shanahan was not trying to score a touchdown on that drive. It wasn't until Deebo Samuel and Jimmy Garoppolo bailed him out with that 40-yard pass. And that was included in my post-game rant. And it was the same thing, the way he approached the 2-minute drill in the Super Bowl. There wasn't a lot of criticism in regards to that. From very select few people will acknowledge that he went about that totally wrong. Should have been more aggressive going up against the Chiefs. So I'm fed up of the free pass Kyle Shanahan. I'm locked in. I'm gunning him down because it's Jimmy Garoppolo. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. You know who Jimmy Garoppolo is. He's the quarterback he's always been. And if you have an average NFL quarterback to maybe slightly above average when he's on, you have to hold him to a lower standard, in my opinion, than the head coach, who is the offensive genius. Shanahan's the one underperforming, not Garoppolo.
I agree. So I think real quick, before we move on, I think the question on every 49ers fan's minds is, what the hell is going on with Kyle Shanahan? Where is his head? Because no one can really figure it out. All of a sudden, it's the biggest mystery. And I got a conspiracy theory here, okay? I think he wants to make the transition to Trey Lance, but he can't figure out how. He has not figured out how to make the transition. And so in this game, when Jimmy comes out cold, he's thinking, well, maybe I can make the move at halftime. But it's going to have to be bad. We're going to have to be down 17-0, And so at midfield, instead of trying to give Jimmy some momentum, he shuts it down. And the only reason they didn't have 0 points at halftime is Trent Cannon. Trent Cannon was, the banana in the tailpipe. I'm just saying, maybe Kyle's trying to figure, it's bad. If it's real bad at halftime, I can make the switch. I would imagine he would like to make a switch at some point, but how? It's hard. It's really hard when the team doesn't want you to, and the fans don't want you to, and you're 2-1.
I hear you. And when I think the time is to make the move, it's tough. I've been consistent with this until you start losing games solely because of Jimmy Garoppolo. And Jimmy Garoppolo is not the sole reason the team is coming out slow in the beginning of these first halves. There's been very questionable play calling. The first half against the Eagles, the first half, no run game, which is another huge issue. And you have all the people that say, oh, it's Kyle Shanahan. Just put in any running back in his system and they'll succeed.
Put in Nick, put in Grant. They'll run for 100 yards.
Exactly. And from what I've seen of Trent Sermon, he did not impress me against the Chiefs. Of course, his one touch last week, he was the 3rd-round pick. He didn't get in until the 4th quarter with 5 minutes left, and God bless his soul, got obliterated on that one hit. I'm surprised that he played this week, but he doesn't strike me as a guy that can take those outside zone pitches and do something with it and pick up serious yards like we've seen from Matt Breida over the years. Go ahead.
He's a big Tevin Coleman.
Yes.
He's trying because let me be specific. He's trying to cut back behind the center, which is fine, but their best blocker is George Kittle. So you might want to get to the perimeter, but he can't. So he's a big Tevin Coleman.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I am. And so I wasn't a fan of the play callings to try to get him going to the outside. Those are plays where you have quick, explosive players like Trent Cannon. I wouldn't mind seeing Trent Cannon in that hasty role where use your explosiveness to go pick up yards like that. So this all circles. The play calling was maddening.
Also, yeah, 0 carries for Cannon, 0 carries for Kerryon Johnson. What did Sermon do that made you feel like you didn't want to give anyone else a look? And this is my thing with Kyle. It's like a symptom of arrogance. But instead of being the kind of person who's like, you know what? I don't know who my best running back is coming into this game. I'm going to give everyone a look and see what happens. He's like, I know. It's Sermon. I just know. And even though Sermon goes out there and has like a stinker of a game, you ask him after the game, well, why didn't you play anyone else? He's like, well, because this is I know. Like that's the way. I already know. Like, dude, you don't know. No one knows. You can't tell the future. Allow yourself to actually react to evidence. And that's my thing with him. Like, so many times he didn't let Trey Lance really compete this year. He didn't let anyone else get a touch in this game at running back besides Trey Sermon. Like, come on. Stop thinking you know what's going to happen. Just lay back and observe. Smart people do that. You're allowed to do that.
And I think, of course, and I think part of that is with it as well is he saw an opportunity to try to justify his 3rd-round pick, make him look good. Because what happens if all of a sudden Jaquez Patrick and Trent Cannon and Kerryon Johnson come in and outperform Trey Sermon?
Not good.
The front office and the decision making in the 2nd and 3rd round of the draft already looks bad. Aaron Banks wasn't in uniform for the 3rd consecutive week. Ambry Thomas, you are so thin at cornerback right now, and he can't get on the field. You have to bring back Dante Johnson every single year.
Buster Screen. Dude.
Yeah. And
you're right, man.
And here's the thing with Shanahan. I don't want people to confuse my criticism towards him and everything that I critique him on for thinking he should be replaced, because I still do feel like he is the best man for the job. Who's going to come in here and do a better job than Kyle Shanahan? But I do think
also
a lot of people need to step back.
We're not even there yet, and they're 2-1.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's fair to look. We're having we're all quality control at heart, and we're just trying to get the best out of this team. It's okay. We just want the best out of this team. And it's fair to say, look, let's not just dump on the quarterback every week. Let's be a little more analytical. And I'm right there with you, Nick.
Yeah, it pretty much is as simple as that. It's just gone on for too long, starting with the Super Bowl where Shanahan
bear a ton of responsibility for that.
Yeah, of course.
Ton of responsibility.
Of course. And again, it does seem in the Bay Area that Shanahan, people are starting to recognize what you've been bringing to the attention to the 49er public all year following, what I've been mentioning over the years. I'm not a Kyle Shanahan fan. I saw that poll. I
just tweeted out, are you losing confidence in the Shanahan-Lynch brain trust? And it's 50-50 right now, which is fascinating. Like before the season, it would have been like 95-5.
So here's one more thing, and here's my kind of conspiracy here.
Yeah.
With the fans that are so pro Trey Lance, all the pro Trey Lance, the ones that feel like he should be starting right now, are also pro keeping Kyle, or not keeping Kyle Shanahan, because you are going to keep him regardless, but they're huge advocates for him as well. Here's my theory that the 49ers were deprived of a competent head coach for 2 years, right, with Jim Tomsula and Chip Kelly. So when Kyle Shanahan came along, who was an offensive genius, is like, oh my gosh, this guy has a clue. At least he has a clue.
Yes.
And now Jimmy Garoppolo, people have been so frustrated with his performance in certain situations. Here comes a new shiny toy in Trey Lance who can do things that Jimmy Garoppolo can't do. It's like, okay, Trey Lance, let's get so excited over him. Maybe Kyle Shanahan is not who we think he is, and what we're seeing from right here is his true self. It's possible. There's been so many mistakes and just so many things that he's gotten away with over the years that maybe we got to stop making excuses for him and call him out what he is. I'm not ready to say that yet, because I do feel like he's been dealt a bad hand. How much of that is on him, though? I don't know what goes on in training camp and every single preseason game that players get hurt under him every single year. It's fascinating. I don't know.
Nick, hold on. Let me follow up with that. So you're saying he's showing his true self. How would you describe his true self? I mean, it's fair to say it's year 5. Niner fans know Kyle Shanahan very well at this point. How would you describe Kyle's true self?
This is not going to sit well with 49er fans, and I'm going to compare how I'm starting to feel about Kyle Shanahan towards Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo, I know what I'm getting out of him. He's the only thing consistent about him is that he's inconsistent. You're going to have the highs, you're going to have the lows, and you live with it. Yeah. How I'm starting to feel about Kyle Shanahan is that he's going to call the great plays, and he's going to, from the majority of the time, more so than he's not, he's going to call the right things, pull the right strings, and then he's going to have the critical brain farts in certain situations.
Brain farts is the brain
exactly. And the only difference between how I view those two and why I'm not more frustrated or critical towards Garoppolo as I am Kyle Shanahan is because the way Kyle Shanahan is perceived by the majority of the public, the majority of 49er fans, of being this unbelievable genius who can't pick up a single freaking yard on 4th and 1 and doesn't have the confidence to do so.
Also, another thing, where are the big plays in his offense? A lot of people will say, well, Jimmy is the limiting factor. You can't have big plays in the passing game with Jimmy. Okay, fine. They have to be yards after the catch. Fine. What about in the running game? Where is the freaking running game? I thought it was all about blocking and scheme and Kittle and Williams and McGlinchey. This running game is like 3 yards a carry the last 2 weeks. All you got to do is play a 3-4 defense and put 5 on the line, and that's it. You're out. What is that? Okay, so the book's out on you guys. You got to – after the game, people were asking Kittle and Juszczyk about the running game, and they're like, yeah, man, that front was really giving us problems. Kyle and Mike McDaniel are going to have to find answers. Like, what? They didn't find answers? That's disheartening. I thought they would know. I mean, I thought they were the best. I'm just saying.
Yeah, what was frustrating about that game is the 49ers looked like the team that were starting backup offensive linemen and defensive. Remember, the Packers were missing Zadarius Smith. Right. Which team looked like the team that was missing key players? It was not the Packers, even though they actually were. And the 49ers just got dominated at the point of attack. I thought after the Jimmy Garoppolo interception, the defense turned down their physicality a little bit. After that interception, I do want to say they got a 4th and 1 stop, but guys were blowing by Fred Warner, Jimmy Ward picking up 5-6 extra yards, whether it was a running play or a pass play.
Yeah. Let me ask you if you saw the same thing. On defense, I felt like when you watched, part of the problem is that DeMeco Ryans has 0 disguises. Like, you watch the safeties. When it's an 8-man box, it's like an 8-man box right off the bat, right out the huddle. And Rodgers is like, okay, well, I'm throwing deep as soon as I get the ball wherever I want because I like all the matchups. And then when it's like a 2-deep look, it's a 2-deep look right off the bat. And he's like, okay, I'll run the ball for 6 yards. Like, there's no disguise here. And that's part of the issue with DeMeco. Like, I think that was an issue with Saleh at first. He wasn't really disguising his coverages. I think Dante Whitner was upset about that early on. But, I mean, these are things I guess that come with experience. And I just don't understand. Okay, so you're not playing your first-round pick because this team is too win now. This team is too veteran. But you hired DeMeco Ryans? Nothing against DeMeco, but same thing. Like, how does he fit your timeline? Dan Quinn was available. Gus Bradley was available. Raheem Morris was available. These guys are all good, all experienced, all guys you could have had, but you're like, nah, we'll just promote from within and get a guy who's never done a game plan, called a play. It's like, make it make sense, Nick.
No, that's a good point. And I never even thought of it through that lens or from that perspective where it's very contrary to one another, right? To keep Trey Lance on the bench because you're in win now mode and you have the starting quarterback. DeMeco Ryans is a rookie in his own right. He's a rookie defensive coordinator. So why not go
Dan Quinn
for a little experience there?
Sorry, I mean, Monday night he was really good. He's doing a good job. He's a good coordinator. And he has history with Kyle. Well, come on, what happened there, Kyle? How did you drop the ball now?
And one thing you mentioned this past offseason when there was all the speculation and it was looking like Robert Saleh was going to go get a head coaching job, which he did, was that there's no salary cap against defensive coordinators. The 49ers could have made Robert Saleh the richest defensive coordinator of all time. And I mean, maybe who's to say you can't do that? Because you can. You absolutely can. So I was worried about
done that instead of losing Kyle Shanahan. They should have cut him at whatever. Like, what are the Niners paying you? We'll pay you more to be our coordinator. Don't leave. I mean, you should do stuff like that. You should.
And I thought the balance between Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan worked exceptionally well.
Agree.
I'm not a huge fan of.
Hold on real quick. Why?
Yeah.
Because Saleh has an ability to lead from the back seat, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's not calling attention to himself, but he does all the little tiny things. He fills in the gaps of Kyle Shanahan's personality. Like Shanahan is like the boss who didn't read the Management for Dummies book. Like he just doesn't really get it or care. But and Saleh does, but he's not. He's like, okay, I'll be number 2, and without taking any of the glory, I'll do all the things that are necessary for leadership in the coaching staff. But it's like very covert. That's the way I saw it.
No, I'm with you. And that's one of the issues I've always had with Shanahan. Going back to 2017, I've never been a huge fan of the way he presents himself to the public, to the media. I never have.
It's a little unprofessional.
Totally. And I was just texting with a buddy of mine today. Shout out Kyle Cagney, who's a LA Rams fan. He's a huge Sean McVay fan. And we've had a debate, who would you rather have right now, McVay or Kyle Shanahan as head coach? And I try to be as unbiased as possible. And I was basically saying, as far as talent on the team goes, McVay's always had the upper hand, right? Sure. And he was saying, well, I don't think that McVay is necessarily better offensively.
Agreed.
I think he's a better head coach because of his player safety and the way he goes about the preseason, not letting his starters play. And of course, there's some controversy around there. The way he presents himself and the way he talks, which is so huge to me personally. I've always loved listening to McVay talk. He's charismatic. He's energetic. He treats people with respect. He's not snarky and is like the way that Kyle Shanahan comes off is very bothersome to me at times. Whereas Robert Saleh and John Lynch, arrogant. I love John Lynch is the spokesperson of the franchise, the GM, because he always presents himself really respectfully. And Kyle Shanahan just gives me the me vibes, which is really rare in a head coach. Really rare in a head coach.
He has the arrogance to me, like Kyle, the arrogance of Bill Belichick. And it's like, dude, you don't have 8 rings. You lost 2 Super Bowls. Have some humility.
Blown 2 Super Bowls. Yeah.
Yeah, it would do you good. I mean, Sean McVay doesn't act like that. And to have that, I really feel like the 2 most arrogant head coaches in the NFL are Belichick and Kyle. And Belichick's earned it. Damn it. He has. He's 70 years old or whatever, and he has 1 million rings. Kyle, dude, you haven't. You haven't earned it. You gotta find some humility here. Because you're losing your fans here. You are.
He is.
And you're 2-1. It took 1 loss. You're 2-1, and fans are like, I don't know. I don't know about this guy. And they're right. They're freaking right.
DeMeco Ryans.
This team has no identity. 0.
No, you're hitting down everything. Let's hold off on the identity portion.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Let's keep it on DeMeco Ryans a little bit because, of course, Jimmy Garoppolo, who had the most embarrassing turnover I think I've seen in person in my entire life. Like that fumble to throw the ball backwards like that, to throw it towards the ground and spin, that was bad. That was a really embarrassing turnover from my perspective. And give Garoppolo credit. What does he do the next drive? You can say that George Kittle, Deebo Samuel made fantastic catches to bail him out. He was fantastic. And aside from the Super Bowl, I struggled.
The best drive of Garoppolo's career?
It could have been.
I think it was.
So
considering it was on the line. Was it staying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And outside of that, Super Bowl misfire to Emmanuel Sanders. When has Garoppolo not come through for the 49ers in a situation like that? Really think about it.
So many games. It's true.
He's clutch.
Yeah, the thing about him is like he can be bad for 3 quarters. He's got a little Tim Tebow in him. I mean, they play differently, but the end result is like, man, he pulled it out. His numbers are good though. He's like the efficient, non-athletic version of Tim Tebow. If that makes I guess they have nothing. Anyway, sorry.
I get you. I hear what you're saying as far as the ability to kind of pull it off when it matters.
Yeah, man.
And then it's like, where did that come from? Because you were doing this the entire game.
What?
I get where you were going with that.
Yeah.
I get where you were going with that.
Yeah,
and so DeMeco Ryans, the 49ers could no, I don't care that Kyle Juszczyk got into the end zone, scored the touchdown when he did. When you're in a situation like that, you got to score. 37 seconds left. What did you see? How do you feel about how the way that they let Devontae Adams, of all people, torch them, the guy that was killing them all game? And I'm just going to throw this in here. It looked like Devontae Adams was knocked out cold for a second or two. the way that he got hit from Jimmy Ward,
Yeah,
his
with like
head
his arms
bounced up.
hanging to the side.
Yeah, that's like a sign when you can't move and your arms bent behind you. How the hell did Davante Adams get clear to go back in that game to begin with? Anyway, that's besides the point. Besides the point.
I was not expecting to see him trot back out there. No. Nope.
Yeah, I saw him like 2 plays later. I was like, was that number 17?
Honestly, it was like, look, I'm not gonna please I'm going conspiracy theory here, tinfoil hat. It was like, look, big game. We're not gonna kick out Jimmy Ward. We're not gonna rule out Davante Adams. That's the way I thought it. That's the way I looked at it. Fair is fair. Fair is fair. Yeah. Jimmy, you stay. Davante, you stay. We don't want the story to be about you two people being knocked out of the game at the end, because that's the way I looked at it. They'll never say that, but I think that's what it was.
Let's talk about Ryan's, though, that final drive.
Okay.
Are you going to put that on him?
I'm going to put it on Ryan's, but this game was crazy because it was on everyone. First of all, it was on Jimmy for snapping the ball at 12 seconds with that.
Yeah, with the play clock.
It started there. You could have shaved off 9-10 seconds. But honestly, it's hard to know you're going to score there. It's hard to know you're going to need that, right? So it's partially on Jimmy, but it's not like a boneheaded mistake. It's just an unfortunate mistake. So it's partially on Jimmy. And then I want to go special teams. Why are you kicking the ball in the end zone there? Kick the ball a low line drive that hits it like the 30 or the 25 and forces them to field it. And that gets you 2 or 3 seconds too. Like every second is precious because they got that field goal off with 1 second left. Am I wrong?
The field goal, they might have been 3. I thought there was 3 seconds on it, but close enough.
Yeah, man, every second is precious. Like when I was a kid, they used to do stuff like that. There was more gamesmanship on special teams. Now they just boot it in the end zone. I don't know. So, okay, those 2 things. But then D'Amico, the first play of zone, cover 4, quarters on first down. Like, they're passing. You know they're going to really target that zone over the middle because you're trying to take away the sidelines, and you don't take it away. You give Davante Adams a free release. You don't double Davante Adams. Where else is he going to throw? Where else is he going to throw? You know it's going to Adams. And like on the second play, the second completion, it was man coverage with a double on Adams, and it was just not executed properly by the double team. So that's not on him. That's on the execution. But the first one, soft zone on first down, man, you deserve to lose. Like that's on you, D'Amico. That was a bad call.
I'm in agreement with you. We're going to take a pause real quick. You are listening to the Faithful Fanatic podcast, part of the Pigskin Podcast Network. We're going to give a special shout out to DraftKings. So I was all over playing daily fantasy last Sunday. I won my 50-50 head-to-head, won a light little $100 off that. And then I played the Sunday night KFC showdown. I pulled all the right strings. I drafted Davante Adams, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk. I had Garoppolo and Rodgers in there. I still didn't. I came up short, but that does not mean that you're going to come up short when you sign up for DraftKings today using promo code TPPN. You can sign up for DraftKings today using promo code TPPN. They'll match your initial deposit up to 20%, up to $500. And if you live in a state where the DraftKings Sportsbook is accessible, if sports gambling is allowed in your state, if you place a $1 bet using promo code TPPN at sign up, you'll get $150 free in bonus play. So a $1 wager will land you $150 free in bonus play. Make sure to head to DraftKings.com or download the app. Sign up for DraftKings today. $150 in free bets using promo code TPPN when you place a $1 bet. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. No dual accounts. Got to have one per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com Sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or if you're in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. So make sure to head to DraftKings today. Use promo code TPPN for some free play, some prizes on their way. DraftKings gives out millions each and every day in prizes. So use that promo code TPPN. I know Grant's not a huge fantasy guy. I am on the other side of it. I had the 49ers -3. Wasn't too stoked that the game ended the way it did. Ride the high like that and that was what was worst about the game to me, Grant, is that you come down, the emotion of the game just takes over. The place erupted when Kyle Juszczyk scored that touchdown. When Kyle Juszczyk scored that touchdown, everyone went crazy. And the next thing you know, here comes Mr. Aaron Rodgers, future Hall of Famer. 49ers should have drafted him instead of Alex Smith. No one's really talking about that anymore. But that was devastating. That was devastating.
Alex Smith's great in the booth, by the way. Really a terrific announcer.
I love Alex Smith.
He's just taking control. Like Steve Young is there, and to me, Alex Smith is the star of that set. He's really good.
So before we move on, one more time, I'm going to throw the promo code out there. Use promo code TPPN for $150 in free play when you place a $1 wager, or 20% match on your initial deposit up to $500 when you sign up for DraftKings today. All right, moving on. Let's take a look at the numbers. One thing that was really surprising to me, and has been surprising for the first 2 weeks, is the lack of involvement, specifically with Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle, two guys that had monster games Sunday night. And that goes back to Kyle Shanahan as well. Why is he not getting these guys more involved? It's maddening to me.
Kittle and who?
Juszczyk.
Well, I mean, they got Juszczyk involved a lot against the Packers.
Oh, I know, but I'm talking about before that. Because you see everything that he can do on the football field. He touched the ball one time against the Lions, 3 times against the Eagles, and every time he touched the ball against the Packers, something good happened. Why don't you, Kyle Shanahan, utilize the highest paid fullback in the league more when he's such a weapon? He lined up at quarterback. He lined up in the slot. He lined up at receiver, running back. He was doing everything.
It just seems like the Niners' game plans and play calling on offense the first 3 weeks have been totally uninspiring and totally uninspiring. I mean, the offense isn't – they scored 29 points, but as you said, one drive was Trenton Cannon. I mean, they're averaging like no yards on offense per play. It's just they're really struggling. And it's like it's just simple questions. Where's the creativity? What in 3 games point to something where you've been like, wow, like 2019 when they went to the Super Bowl, week 2 against Cincinnati, they had the touchdown throw to Marquise Goodwin. Was wide open. They had the Dante Pettis throw.
Pass,
they were getting like huge plays in the passing game and the running game. Big runs from Matt Breida and Raheem Mostert. Where are the big plays? There is no big plays in this offense. The big plays are when Kittle or Debo catches the ball and runs for like 20 yards. But that's all on them. Those are
For the 49ers that rely so heavily on the explosive run, you're not going to get that until Mitchell comes back, Elijah Mitchell. And something I've been advocating for is bring back Matt Breida. He has struggled at every other stop. He struggled in Miami to get on the field. He's struggling to get on the field right now with the Bills. He's not going to cost you anything.
Like
you can give a 2023 7th-round pick at that. I'm sure the Bills would take that. If you just – he's familiar with the system. He's a home run threat. That's exactly what this team needs. That's a move I would make. It's a move I would make. Let's talk about the team's identity, though, or lack thereof, if you will, because it's concerning. It's concerning. If you're 3 weeks into the season, is this team going to be dominant in the trenches? After last Sunday night, I don't know. It's hard to say that. Are they going to be as great as they were defensively despite all the injuries last season? Hard to say that. You really don't know what the Planet quarterback is going to be for the remainder of the season. After the bye week, it's highly likely Trey Lance comes in, especially if the 49ers lose these next 2 games to the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Your run game is gone. Your physicality is being questioned, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I love George Kittle and Deebo Samuel, so I don't want to talk about the offense lacking physicality. In the run game, yes. But, I mean, you have playmakers. What kind of football team is this? It's really tough to gauge right now.
The kind of football team it looks like to me is a team that's plays half a game. I mean, honestly, they played really well against the Lions for the first half, and then the second half was like, what the hell was that?
Exactly.
And then the last 2 weeks, they didn't show up until the final drive of the first half. Last 2 weeks. I don't know what that is. I mean, kind of reminded me of like the Warriors started doing that at the end of their run. They kind of only showed up at like the third quarter. They'd mess around, but that's an 82-game season with playoffs. They were pacing themselves. Like that's not what the Niners aren't pacing themselves. They just look kind of like a sloppy, mediocre team right now. And of course they can improve. There's a lot of time for them to get their stuff together. But right now they look like a sloppy, mediocre team that took it down to the wire against the freaking Lions and Eagles.
No identity, no
None.
identity, and that's what's so frustrating, and it's tough to pinpoint. Your coach, who's an offensive genius, supposedly should be able to carry you in moments like this, draw something up, scheme something up. So I'm getting frustrated with Shanahan, and this game coming up on Sunday, it's so important. After this game, the Seahawks play the Rams. The Seahawks, you cannot let them want this game more than you, because both teams have so much at stake in a week 4 game. You're playing in the loaded NFC West where every single game carries so much weight, especially these division games. And I'm concerned how this team is going to come out and perform. The way that they come out of the gates has been huge against both the Lions and the Packers and led to things not going as they should have or were expected to go.
Yeah. I'm just looking at this. They got the Rams after that. Wow, you're right. So you're saying if they lose to the Niners, they're looking at
1-4. 1-4. Their season's done. You're not going to get into the playoffs in the NFC West. It's
important to understand that this is the Seahawks Super Bowl right here this week. This is their Super Bowl.
Yep.
And if the Niners don't approach this game with that same level of seriousness, they will freaking lose.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I wrote a similar column in regards to the 49ers, kind of flip-flopping it. The Niners were in the Seahawks positions last year where they played the Dolphins. And I was just adamant that if the 49ers don't beat the Dolphins, they are not going to get into the playoffs. Like, this is the season. It sounds silly, week 5, week 6, whatever it was. Yeah. You need to win this game. And I want to say it was the week before they played the Rams. I'm kind of having a hard time piecing together last year's schedule. I want to say they lost to the Dolphins, then beat the Rams the following week, even though Garoppolo, he didn't play that second half because his ankle was still bothering him or whatever. But the 49ers got annihilated by the Dolphins.
Right. And the Dolphins and Rams.
The Niners got annihilated, and their season was pretty much done right in that moment. And
because they were 2-3 at that point.
Exactly.
Which is what they're staring down this year. They were 2-3 last year. They're 2-1. Honestly, hold on real quick.
Yeah.
They were 2-1 last year. Then they lost their next 2 games.
To the Eagles, the Sunday night game when they were like 13-point favorites with Nick Mullins at quarterback. Then the Dolphins game happened.
That's right.
And remember, this was a team
coming off. Important stretch.
That was an important stretch, and that was the team coming off the Super Bowl. And again, I had lofty expectations. I thought somewhat realistic expectations that this team was Super Bowl caliber on both sides of the ball. And then the Mostert injury happened. I feel like he is such an important piece on offense because he provides those explosive plays that they rely on so heavily, which is why I didn't get it for the life of me, why people were advocating to trade Mostert because of his $4 million salary or whatever it was maddening. And then the Verrett injury, I kind of taken a step back on this. I was comfortable going into the rest of the season with Mosley and Lenore and Norman. And do the 49ers win that game with Verrett and just his wit and the way that he's been able to shut down receivers? I actually might have taken a little bit of an L there saying that I don't think the Verrett injury will cost the team a win. It might have against the Packers.
I think it did. Yeah. He can go toe-to-toe. Let's put it this way. On the first play of the final drive, instead of calling quarters, you can call man-to-man coverage with confidence if it's Jason Verrett.
Yeah. One question I want to ask you, let's talk about how your expectation shifted. How did you view this team going into the year and now through 3 games and taking into account the injuries, kind of Kyle Shanahan sputtering out the gates a little bit, not looking as impressive as we're used to seeing him look offensively? How do you feel about this team moving forward?
When the schedule came out, I thought I found 11 wins. But that was assuming that they were all in with Trey Lance and they were going to have some type of new, totally new offense that the league wasn't ready for. But then when I saw that they were going back to what they've been doing with Jimmy Garoppolo, I dropped it down to 10. And then when Jason Verrett and Raheem Mostert went down week 1, I dropped it down to 9. And they won their first 2 games. But my point was can we not be prisoners of the moment? We all thought the Niners would win their first 2 games.
Great call on that. Absolutely. No one saw it otherwise.
I mean, I thought the Niners would beat the Packers too because the Packers were so beat up in their offensive and defensive lines. But the fact that they didn't beat the Packers, they should have, but really continue to play kind of a sloppy, mediocre style of football makes me feel validated. Again, this is a 9-win team. They definitely have the ability to improve, and they have more upside or whatever you want to call it. But as what they're showing right now is a team that'll win more than they lose. but it's a 9-win team. Is what I
It's
say.
it's close. It's close.
Yeah.
And this is a scary stretch for the 49ers. It really is. Back-to-back division games. You just lost a game where you should have won, despite for 58 minutes it looked like you had no chance of winning. So you kind of missed one right there that would have really,
Like
really
when he
helped
threw the
out.
ball backwards, it looked over. The fact that it wasn't is amazing. Yeah.
It looked pretty close to being over when it was 17-0 before Trent Cannon
I had some
single-handedly
snarky tweets that I was about to write, and I was like,
in the drafts. Yeah.
let's just wait because they can come back, and they freaking did. I was like, yeah.
So this stretch playing the home game against the Seahawks, huge, because it's huge for them, which makes it huge for you, because if you don't come out ready to go, I don't like how I kind of see that playing out if you do not match their intensity. And it's Russell Wilson. Next week, you got Kyler Murray, who's an MVP candidate in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough 3-game stretch. And this was the first test really going Packers, Seahawks, Cardinals. And if the 49ers lose 3 straight, you're going to see Trey Lance. You're going to see Trey Lance. And that's not something anybody should advocate for. I hope you want to see the team succeed more than Trey Lance getting inserted to the starting lineup. But if this team's 2-3 going into the bye week, there's no doubt in my mind it'll be Trey Lance. I don't want to see that, though. I want, and everybody should want, and I expect them to play a hell of a game against the Seahawks. I don't necessarily know who's going to win. The Seahawks are having a down year by their standards. The 49ers have never lost back-to-back games with Jimmy Garoppolo, and the Seahawks have never started 1-3 with Russell Wilson.
Here's my concern for this game for the Niners offense. First of all, they haven't played well the last 2 weeks in terms of yards per play. Second of all, Jimmy really struggled against the Seahawks last year in Seattle. Now, you could say he might have been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He really struggled in that game. And you might say they have the book on him. Like, I mean, the book's out, but they've seen him so many times. They probably, all those players, those coaches know what they want to do against him. And if he is going to play like he played last year against Seattle, are you going to let another game go? I would have a quicker hook. I'm surprised the leash hasn't been shorter. Nothing against Jimmy.
Yeah.
But you did this, and you're supposed to have confidence in him. And, like, I don't know. I feel like if you can manufacture stuff for Jimmy, you can manufacture stuff for Trey Lance. And what I want to see with Trey that we haven't been able to see much yet is play action. Mm-hmm. Play action. That's why he's here. You can do more on play action, go further down the field. The zone read is cool, and he needs to improve as a pocket passer, but what he can do in play action should theoretically be available now. And make the team better.
And that's what I would advocate more so than if he should start or not, is he should still be on the field more.
Yeah.
Especially because it's Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, and that's not a diss towards Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, it kind of is. It's catching a stray there from what I'm trying to say. But more so, Garoppolo's the type of quarterback that when he says he's A-okay with this type of situation, I truly believe it. I really do. I think he carries himself so professionally. He doesn't mind to see Trey Lance come into the game and steal some of his shine or lack of shine, Just from the first touchdown pass Trey Lance threw from Trent Sherfield, you see Jimmy Garoppolo on the sidelines jumping up and down. After the touchdown pass, when Trey Lance stole his drive to Trent Sherfield, Jimmy Garoppolo is cheering for him. And I believe that is a genuine reaction from Jimmy Garoppolo. He's not doing it for show. I really think he's cool with Trey Lance coming in and helping the team out. So my question is,
Kyle flirted with this in the final preseason game, going back and forth and back and forth against the Raiders. Like, what was that all about? Why were you trolling us?
Yeah, my point's not that Trey Lance needs to start. I've never been that strong opinionated on it. It's that he's a weapon. Yeah. When you look at the opposing defense trying to get lined up, they look confused when Trey Lance is in the game.
True.
So why aren't you doing that more, utilizing him more, especially when you're having these slow starts?
Thank you.
Of course. And that's what's maddening to me. Jimmy Garoppolo.
Theoretically, Lance should make Garoppolo better. Yes. And vice versa. And if you play both, they should. All you're doing is putting the defense on their heels.
And with the ground game, without Mostert, without Mitchell, these guys that you rely on for chunk yardage, I would just think he becomes that much more important to utilize, not to just only have him run the ball. He's a threat to run the ball every single play, but he could throw the ball too. And again, Kyle Shanahan, what are you doing? Jimmy Garoppolo's marching the ball. You put in Trey Lance, get all cute against the Lions. And then when it logically makes sense, a decision that everybody can get on board with for you to insert Trey Lance when the offense is starting slow. You don't do it. You don't do it.
Stubborn.
Oh,
Stubborn.
man. Oh, man.
Stubborn.
Yeah. So
then after the game, they're like, so why did you play Trey or when you did, or why didn't? They're like, there's no reason. No reason. There's no rhyme or reason for when I do it. So thanks a lot for helping us on that.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. And the way my expectation shifted, this is a team that I really saw being very competitive in the NFC West. I know how great the Rams are. I think there's a huge gap between the Rams and the Cardinals, the 49ers, and the Seahawks are all kind of jumbled in together. And I was expecting to see this team play deep into January, which is still possible, maybe make a Super Bowl appearance. But right now I'm kind of like just target getting into the playoffs. It doesn't have to be winning the division. Maybe not aim for a wild card, but I would be content with that and just get into the dance and try to make some noise. That's kind of where my mind is at. It looks like these injuries, especially going up against Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Robert Woods, DeAndre Hopkins, this cornerback issue, I really underplayed, I think, following the Verrett injury, because it's looking rough. It's looking rough.
Yeah. I think you had to reassess your expectations after this game.
Yeah, because, you do.
You know, you win your first two games, and people are like, well, you know, you didn't win by enough, or there were some issues. And I think like part of you, maybe the fan in you, wants to say, shut up. You went, but then you lose this game, and you're like, okay, well, if we're being honest, like some of these issues were predictable because they showed themselves in the previous games, and really the difference is the Packers had, you know, Rodgers and Adams, and those teams didn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And again, the team was right there to win the game. They had the chance to win the game, go 3-0, and maybe we're having a different conversation right now. But what I see, the way I feel about Garoppolo, the way I feel about Shanahan, the way I'm starting to feel like this team, there's going to be highs and lows. And if they could string together a complete football game, they're going to look dominant. But they're going to –
waiting for that.
We've seen it. We're waiting for that. But the potential and the stars on each side of the ball, I believe that there's going to be times this year where they look really, really good. And everybody's going to say to themselves, here we go. We're back. We're getting back in form. And then there's going to be the game like the Packers first half where it's like, what? This is what you're doing against backups? And that's just kind of how I see everything playing out the rest of the year. So I'm definitely dimming my expectations a little bit, just aiming for that playoff spot. That's kind of
real quick. I just feel like the Seahawks are going to have a very good defensive game plan, because when you play these divisional games, I mean, they're not just doing what they do. They're often very like they have a plan for you. Yeah. And if the Niners, maybe this is what their whole thing is with Trey Lance. We got to save it for the divisional games because they know us so well. And like this is what like I'm just trying to give the Niners the benefit of the doubt.
Of course. And if that's what happens, that'd be very reassuring. It would be reassuring. Like watching the game and at least having Trey Lance try to come in and make a difference would be like, okay, benefit of the doubt, like you're saying.
Yeah.
But if the Seahawks have this great game plan for Garoppolo and he's struggling and we don't see Lance, and there's clear moments where he could come in and make something happen, like the 4th and 1 from Green Bay's 49-yard line from midfield was the perfect opportunity for Trey Lance to come in and help change the game. If you don't see that.
Okay. Also, like if you have another scenario where you're going like the first 3 series are 3 and out, do what you did in the Raiders game where you're just like alternating who hands off. Just mess with people.
Mess with them.
You can bring in Lance every other play just to hand off. Mess with people because just, you know, what you're doing, if it's not working, don't stick with it.
Yeah.
Go to a change-up, man. Yeah.
And so I don't care if Garoppolo has a terrible game and he's the reason why he's lost. I'm not coming for Garoppolo because we know he's capable of having these games. I'm coming for the man making the decision. That's the reason why Garoppolo's here. And that's what people are just so set on blaming Garoppolo. He is who he is. You know who's in charge of making the right calls and putting the right quarterback in the right situation? Not Jimmy Garoppolo.
I keep thinking of it like this. Think of it, Niner fans, try to think of it this way. Let's say the Rams didn't trade for Matthew Stafford. Instead, they kept Jared Goff and traded up for Trey Lance and started Jared Goff and didn't play Trey Lance. From the Bay, we'd be looking at them like, oh, what are they doing? They're stupid.
Idiots, yeah.
But that's what the Niners are doing. That's how you can – that's one way to look at it.
That's a great point. That is a great point. Well, that was great. Got a lot off my chest there, following up my my post-game rant Sunday night. I'm hoping I don't have to send out another one of those. All right. Well, Grant, thank you. Pleasure as always for coming on, talking 49er football. I think after a game like that, there's not a guest I'd rather have on other than yourself with us in our we see how it is with Shanahan. We do, and people are reluctant to call it out, and it's great having you on.
Make sure this week. I was just happy to do some work with you.
Right, I appreciate it. Be sure to follow Grant on Twitter, on YouTube, all 49er Sports Illustrated. He's holding it down. The fastest growing, the most popular in my eyes, the most popular 49er media member. No one has blown up faster than Grant over the last year. And you see everybody trying to get on his wave right now, get on the YouTube, do all that stuff. Everybody's trying to steal Grant's flow. He was the first one to do it. And for that, I respect the hell out of him, keeping me aboard all 49er Sports Illustrated. Of course. Thank you for tuning in to the Faithful Fanatic podcast, now part of the Pigskin Podcast Network. And remember, sign up for DraftKings today using promo code TPPN and receive $150 off of $1 wager in bonus play. Or if you're in a state where, unfortunately, you can't sports gamble, you get 20% your deposit back in bonus play playing daily fantasy. Again, thanks for tuning in.